Okay then, before I start today's ultimate Retroarch setup guide for Windows PC, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content on my channel, Just Jamie. That just means you'll get notified every time I release a new setup guide. And Retroarch wise, I tend to upload quite a fair few of those. Anyways, what we're going to do today is get you up and running then with the latest distribution of Retroarch, which came out a couple of weeks ago, but I've been too busy on my channel covering other setup guides. But we're looking at this finally, and I'm going to give you the ultimate Retroarch setup guide for this. So what we're going to do first of all is just head over to Retroarch and go to the Downloads tab. Now, you've got two versions of Retroarch. We can either install this to the computer, or we can actually download it in portable. Personally, I prefer using this as a portable version, so everything's within one folder, and it's not hidden deep within your hard drive. So we got the installer just there at 64-bit, as well as a 32-bit, and we've also got download 64-bit. And a download 32-bit. So the differences is that the installers are, like I've said, gonna install to your computer, and we got the download versions, which are gonna be the portable versions. It also says 64 and 32-bit, so for some people out there watching this, that might be a little bit confusing. You're not sure what that is. Very easy to find out what this means. It's just typing into your search bar system information, and under your system type, you're going to establish just here what type of computer you're running. So it says 32-bit, and if your computer under system type happens to say x86 or anything else but x64, it means you're running a 32-bit computer. My computer is actually a 64-bit, which means I'm going to download the 64-bit version. So it's very unlikely anyone watching this video of this day and age has a 32-bit computer nowadays, but Retroarch tends to keep this going. People out there do use it. So here's Retroarch. I've just downloaded this, and as you can see, it's downloaded into a WinRAR archive. If I just open this, what I'm going to do is just drag out Retroarch, just extract it onto the desktop, and this is going to give us a portable version. Now, while this is extracting, if you're not sure how to use Retroarch and you hear people talking about cores are very pivotal to Retroarch. What a core is actually a miniature emulator. So rather than using lots of standalone emulators, we can actually download what's called cores in Retroarch. So we've now extracted this, and we've got the portable version of Retroarch. Here's the file structure. So we got several different folders here. Each one of these folders can be useful, and we've also got lots of .dll files. We're going to leave those there for now. If we just scroll right down to the bottom, we're going to find retroarch.exe. Now, if you double left click on this one, it's going to open up Retroarch in window mode. So what we're going to do first is actually connect controller. So I'm using a Bluetooth Xbox controller for this. And the way to sync this to, say, your computer or your laptop is very easy. Just go to your search bar, and all you need to do is just type in, say, Bluetooth in other settings, and you should find add device. If I just click on that and go to Bluetooth, if I then hold down the buttons on my controller, we should then find Xbox controller up here, and here it is, Xbox wireless controller. If I left click on that, connecting, and done, my Xbox controller is now paired, and as we can see in Retroarch just there, it's now recognized it. So we're in Retroarch, and this is in window mode. We can actually turn this into a full screen mode, so whenever we open it up, we're no longer going to have that annoying window mode. I'm using my controller now, and just by pressing my D-pad, what I'm going to do is just go down one to settings, and then press right on my D-pad, and down to video, press A. And from here, I'm going to just scroll down to the fourth option, which is full screen mode, and press A on that one. Start in full screen mode. Again, if I press A on this, it's going to refresh itself, and as you can see, we're now in full screen mode. And to come out of this, I'm going to press B on my controller, and B again, and left on my D-pad to go back to settings, and up one to main menu. And from here, I'm just going to go across and just scroll down until I find configuration file is off. If I press A on this and save current configuration by pressing A, And as we can see, it's now saved, and that file for our save has just gone into our Retroarch portable directory. And if I press B to come out, I'm going to go down to quit and press A. Okay, so next thing I want to show you then is actually how to customize Retroarch itself. So what I'm going to do for this is just go over to Google Images, and I've typed into Google search engine neon wallpaper 1080p. So the resolution of my screen I'm using is 1080p. So I'm going to use this image just here, and what we're going to do is actually put this one in the background of Retroarch, and I'm going to show you very easily how to do this. If we right click on the image and left click on save image as, now what I'm going to do is just click on desktop, and that's going to save this file, this image, this JPEG to my desktop. I'm also going to just backspace that series of letters and numbers because we want this nice and neat. So I'm going to just call it neon wallpaper, and you can search for whatever image you want, but just make sure it's in JPEG, so .jpg. So I'm going to save that, and that's now saved to my desktop, as we can see. Next thing I'm going to do is go back into that Retroarch folder. If I go to assets and I go into the wallpaper subfolder, I'm then going to drag that neon wallpaper inside of there. And what I'm going to do next is just come out, and if I then open up Retroarch again, so double left click on the exe. Okay, so we need to set up Retroarch. We're going to go down to settings, user interface, and if I just go down to where it says menu, this is currently using the Ozone theme, which is a little bit bland to some people. If I press A on this, I'm going to go down to XMB, press A, and if I then press B to come out, up to main menu, configuration file, and always save as current configuration. You don't want to lose any of your settings. Now if I press B to come out, I'm then going to go down one to restart and press my A button. And as you can see, Retroarch has now got the XMB theme, and this is the theme we need in order to put our image in the background. So to do this, I'm going to just go to settings and user interface. If I press A, I'm then going to just drop down to appearance, and I just scroll down background image. I'm going to press A to go into there, and here's my wallpapers folder that I've just put that image into. If I press A on this, here's neon wallpaper. If I press A, and here we go, we now got that neon wallpaper in the background. Now we can funk this up, but don't want to get too technical, but if you did want to funk it up to make it a little bit more interactive, just simply go into user interface again, appearance, and we're going to go to shader pipeline, and we can add some snow, for example, with this, so simple snow, and there we go. So entirely up to you, and just remember, if you've got a lower end computer, by applying some of these video settings, it might cause some lag. If you watch my smart TV Retroarch setup guide the other day, my TV couldn't handle it, so you could see lagging when I applied the snow on that. We got another snow option here, so snow's a bit thicker, and I think this looks pretty cool. Now, if we just scroll down a bit more, so if I go into icon theme, I'm going to set this to retro system, and if I press B to come out and B again, I'm going to go back to main menu, configuration file, save current configuration. I now need to restart Retroarch, and here we go. So as you can see, the icons have now changed. We got this really cool hexagon look. Okay, so that's the theme, looking pretty snazzy. Nice pictures, icons that is, rather than the standard text or whatever. If you don't like this and you find the layout of this a little bit confusing if you're new to Retroarch, we can change this back to Ozone, the default theme for Retroarch. If we just go to the settings, which is a cog, and then just scroll down to drivers, press A, and from here we can find menu. Now if I press A on this, I can go back to Ozone. And of course we need to save it too, so just go from main menu, configuration file, save current configuration, and in order this to go back to Ozone, what we need to do is just restart. And here we go. So I'm going to be working the rest of this setup guide using this default theme. So what we're going to do then next is actually take a look at downloading some free games. And yes, we can actually download free games through Retroarch. Some pretty good games too. So to do this, we're going to stay within main menu. And if I just go across, I'm going to go down to online updater. We're going to go down to content downloader. And from here, we got a selection of things we can download. I'm going to go down to Doom. And I'm going to download doomshareware.zip. If I press A on this, downloading, extracting. If I come out by pressing B, I'm then going to go down to import content and to manual scan. And I'm going to hit on content directory. Now this is a part where I'm using portable, and of course C drive is my internal hard drive. So it's on C drive. D drive is an external USB device I got attached, but we're not using that, we're using C drive. And from here, I'm going to just navigate to my desktop, which is where my copy of Retroarch Portable is. So if I go down to users to find this, and down to my systems folder, which is Jamie, it's obviously going to be different for you. I'm going to go in there and then just go down to desktop. Now this is going to list the folders on desktop. So from here, I'm going to just go down to Retroarch, press A. And if I then go to downloads, we got Doom just here. Okay, and if we come back out to the main menu, you should find at the bottom downloads, and here's download. So we got Doom 1, which we just downloaded using online updater. They're not going to work, so what we need to do now to power this is download a core. So if we go back up to main menu, and I'm going to go across and drop down to online updater, I'm going to select the first option, which is core downloader, press A. And from here, I'm going to just find a core to power this game, and the core we need is Doom. I've already installed it, but you just press A on this to install. And if we then come back out and just drop down to the download section, if I go to Doom 1, what I need to do is just go to set core association, and I'm going to use Doom PR Boom. So that means every time we open up this game, it will use this core to power it. So over time, as you start downloading various different cores in Retroarch, it will continue to ask you which core you want. If you just select it at this early moment, then we won't need to go through that. So I'm going to set Doom PR Boom, and the core association has now been set. So what we're going to do is just go to run this game. If I press A, so I've just accessed what's called the Retroarch quick menu, and I've accessed this by pressing the Xbox button on my Xbox controller. If you're using a different type of controller, such as a PlayStation controller, it'll be your PS button, or generally any button which powers things will work to get to Retroarch quick menu. If you can't do this, it's your F1 button on your keyboard. From here, we can just close from the game, so close content and press A. And there we go. So we got other games we can download for free also in Retroarch. So it's just a case of just going to online updater, content downloader, and there's other games here too. So not only is there Doom, which is actually a PC port of the game, which is quite likely one of the best of the original early 90s Doom, but we got other games in here we can download too, such as Quake. We got classic Rick Dangerous, which was an Atari ST, an Amiga game. So if I just go into Rick Dangerous, press A, rickdangerous.zip, press A. And now we're going to need to download another core for this. So just go to core downloader. And this one's going to be under Rick Dangerous X Rick. If I press A, core installed Rick Dangerous X Rick. And you're going to notice that there's a hashtag when I'm downloading the cores. And that just tells us that we don't need to download that core again, because there's such a long list through Retroarch different cores. Now, if I press B to come out, we're going to just go through that process again. And here we go, under countless cores, we got Rick Dangerous. Okay, so we're going to import Rick Dangerous into Retroarch, just like we did with Doom. So I'm going to go to import content again, manual scan, content directory. Again, it's in my C drive. And I then need to go to the bottom, users, name of my computer folder is Jamie. And I'm going to go down to desktop again, because that's where my Retroarch portable folder is. And if I just look for Retroarch, here we go. And it's going to be in my downloads folder. Rick Dangerous. Scan this directory. And if I press up on my D-pad, start scan by pressing A. And if I press B to come out, if we then just scroll to the bottom, we're going to find Rick Dangerous. We got data. If I press run on this, and of course, and we're going to go down to set core association again for this. So Rick Dangerous X Rick. And if I then go to play the game, this time we're actually going to start importing our own games. So on my desktop I got Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis games, Nintendo NES 8-bit, and finally I've got PlayStation 1, which requires some BIOS files, and that's going to be a little bit more complex. So what we're going to do first of all is go into the Retroarch directory, and we're going to create a new folder in here just to make things just a little bit more simplified. So I'm going to create a new folder and call this folder simply ROMs. Now in ROMs, I'm going to open this one up. I'm going to drag my Mega Drive folder inside of here. And I'm also going to drag my NES folder inside. Now inside of both of these folders, I've got some games. So in Sega Mega Drive, I've got a few games there. And these are in .md file extension. And if I go into my Nintendo NES folder, I've also got a few games in here. These are in .zip. Now the way around this to find out which file extensions you need. Now as you can see, both platforms, that's Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis and Nintendo NES, they've got different file extensions. And the way to find out which type of file extensions are accepted by particular cores in Retroarch is literally just doing a Google search. So for example, I've just put into Google Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive Retroarch. Now this is a page for the Genesis Plus GX core, and of course Genesis Plus is also a standalone emulator, and this type of information here would tell us what type of file extensions this particular core needs. So if we take a look here, for example, under extensions, Genesis Plus GX core is going to accept all these extensions listed just here, and one of these is actually .md, which is the 3 games I've got in that file extension for Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis. Now it's also going to tell us here that it also supports Sega Mega CD, and it's even going to give us information here for the type of BIOS files we need and what name conventions they need to be in. So if you're ever experiencing issues using particular cores on Retroarch, it's always definitely worth your while just doing a quick search. So for this example, I've just literally put into my search engine Sega Mega Drive Retroarch, and this is the information I found for this one. So plenty of stuff just there, and that'll work for anything. If you just put something like PlayStation 1 Retroarch it will give you the same type of information for that too. So anyways, we got our games inside of Retroarch, and they're in the Retroarch ROMs folder that I've just created. So we now need to open up Retroarch to actually import these. So if I just open up Retroarch once again, now what we're going to do this time is very similar to adding those 3 games which I got. If I go down to import content and go down to manual scan again by pressing A, content directory, it's in my C drive. You don't see the D drive anymore because I've just disconnected that. So here we go. I'm going to go to users, I'm going to go down to my systems folder, Jamie, and down to desktop because that's where my Retroarch folder is. And I'm then going to go to Retroarch. Now this time we're going to find a ROMs folder because I've just created that. And here we go. So we got scan this directory. So I'm going to just hit on A. And if I press up on my D-pad, that's going to quickly take us to the bottom. We need to press A on start scan. And if I press B to come out, right at the bottom you're going to find ROMs because I've just asked it to scan that folder. If you want to do individual folders, for example, one for Sega Mega Drive and one for Sega Genesis, what we do is just go back to import content, manual scan, and I'm going to go back to content directory. If I go into ROMs, I'm going to go into, say, my Mega Drive folder, scan this directory, start scan. If I come out, as we can see, I've now got the Mega Drive directory, and we can do this for Nintendo NES too. So manual scan, and I'm going to go into my NES folder, and it's going to show there's no items in there, that's fine. Scan this directory, press up, start scan, and if we come back out, we've now also got NES. So that's how you do that. So of course we're going to need cores for these to power these. If we just go into a game, it's not going to start. So to do this, we're going to go way back up to main menu, online updater, core downloader, and this time we're going to look for Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive as it's known here in the UK. We just scroll down, there's plenty of cores on here as we can see. And here's our Sega Mega Drive section. And the core I'm going to use for Sega Mega Drive is Genesis plus GX, which accepts those .md files. So if I press A to download and install, we've now got that one downloaded and installed. I'm also going to find a Nintendo NES core to power my NES games. And for this, I'm going to use NES Famicom FCE UMM. If I press A, and that's that one installed. Now if I come back out, what I'm going to do is set core associations first for my NES game. So if I go to Double Dragon 2, and I'm going to set core association, and as we can see, what I was saying just a minute ago, we need to set core association so every time we boot up a game, we'll go straight into it rather than go into this suggested cores. So I'm going to press A on Famicom here, and that's now been set. So I'm going to open up Double Dragon 2. Okay, so I'm doing particularly bad on that, so I'll give in. So what I'm going to do is enter the Retroarch quick menu to close. So remember, I'm pressing my Xbox button, or you can press F1 button to get to this. If we go to close content, press A. Okay, so we're going to come out, and I'm going to open up the Turtles game. And again, I'm going to set core association, which is going to be the Famicom core here. And if we open up this game, I'm next going to show you how to save and load your game. Okay then, what we're going to do is save the state. So I'm going to save the gameplay from right here. If I go to the Retroarch quick menu, save state. If I go to state slot, I've got 1,000 different slots that I can save to. I'm going to use auto, which is going to automatically select 0 just here. If I go to save state and press A, okay, now if I press my Xbox button again for Retroarch quick menu, I'm going to go to load state and press A. Cool, and we're just going to close that off here. Now next up, I'm going to go to Mega Drive and I'm going to show you how to make some video enhancements. So first of all, what we're going to do is download something called overlays. If we go to main menu, we're going to go back to online updater for this. If I scroll down, I'm going to go down to update overlays. I'm also going to update slang shaders. Okay, so we downloaded overlays and we also got those shaders too. So what we're going to do is just open up a game and I'm going to show you what this does. And we're also going to find in history is a quick way of getting back to the games we've been playing. So for this, I'm going to just go to history and I'm going to open up one of these games. I'm going to go for Turtles again. If I press to run this. Okay, so if I go back into the Retroarch quick menu by pressing my Xbox button or F1 key on the keyboard, if I just scroll down, I'm going to come across on-screen overlay. If I press A on this one, I'm going to press A to turn this on, display overlay. And here we go. Now I downloaded overlays just a minute ago, so we should have those in overlay preset. And from here we got some folders. If I go to borders, press A, and I'm going to go into the NES anim border. And I'm just going to drop down one and I'm going to press A on NES border.cfg. And if I come out, press B and go back into the game, main menu, quick menu, resume. And as you can see just there, instead of having black sides, black bars, whatever, we've now got Nintendo NES or Famicom on the sides, which is also animated. As you can see, as I'm playing the game, the buttons are being animated. Very cool stuff. And we can also increase or decrease the opacity. So if I go to overlay opacity, if I press A on this, if I go right up to 1.00 and come out by pressing B, quick menu, resume. So the overlays now look a lot thicker, whereas if I go back down to on-screen overlay and overlay opacity and I put this down to around 0.36, come out. And as you can see just there, it's not so vivid, it's slightly shaded. So other things we can do then, from the quick menu to enhance video settings, we also downloaded shaders just then. Now if we just go down to shaders, and I'm also going to turn this on by pressing A on my controller, and here we go, we're now on. Now what I'm going to do next is just go down to load preset, and I'm going to go down to shaders slang. If I press A on this, we can do some really cool stuff from here. For example, if I go to CRT and I'm going to select CRT Helium Glow, if I press A on this and come back out, quick menu, resume. And as you can see, that's added a bit of a scan line to the game. Now, if I go back down to on-screen overlay, just boost up the overlay opacity so the scan line shader looks a bit more prevalent. And as you can see, scan lines have appeared. It looks pretty old school. Okay, I'm also going to remind you at this point, we can actually save our video settings. So what we're going to do from the quick menu is just go to core options, manage core options, and we got two options here to save. I can either save these video settings for this particular game using this core, or I can drop down to save content directory options, which is going to save these video settings for any game that we use playing this core. So I'm going to go to save content directory options. In that, it's now going to ensure that when I open up another Nintendo NES game using this NES core, we're going to get those bezels appear on the side. Now, if I just close out of this game, I'm then going to open up another NES game. I'm going to go for Double Dragon 2. And when I run this, the overlay should be on the side. Okay, so I'm going to go to Load Preset. I'm going to go down to Shader Slang. And I'm going to just scroll down as an example and use Film. I'm going to select Technicolor.slangp. And now this has now been applied. And if I come back out and go back into my game, quick menu, resume. Okay, so we've not seen nothing yet. We're now going to move on to what's known as mega bezels, and this is going to be awesome. So before we start enabling mega bezels, which are shaders, what we're going to do is set the video driver for this to work. So from here, we're going to go to settings, and we're going to just go across over to video. And inside video, we're going to go to output, and video, this needs to be set to Vulkan or GL Core. Now, most of the time, Vulkan works better than GL Core, but if you don't have Vulkan, then obviously just select GL Core. The other video backends just here aren't going to work, so I'm going to leave this to Vulkan for this. And next thing I'm going to do is actually just go to configuration file and save current configuration. I'm then going to restart Retroarch. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is just load up a game. So I'm going to choose Mega Drive this time. Sonic. So I'm going to go back to quick menu, and from here I'm going to go down to settings and just go across the user interface. And I'm going to just make sure show advanced settings is switched to on. And I'm going to come out and go down to video, scaling, and I'm going to go down to aspect ratio and turn this on to full. So that's going to give us a full screen. As you can see, that's just changed in the background. And I'm going to make sure that integer scaling is turned to off. If this is turned on, turn this off. And I'm going to come out and go up to output. And I'm going to just go down to video rotation and make sure that this one is just set to normal. Okay, so let's actually apply a mega bezel. So to do this, whilst we're in the game course, we're going to just go to quick menu, and from here we're going to just drop down to shaders, and we're going to go down to load preset, shader slang, and from here we're just going to go down to bezel, and here's mega bezel, and we're going to go down to presets, and from here we now got the option to select a mega bezel. So for example, if I enable this one just here that I've got highlighted, if I press A on this, and this one's now been applied. If I go back into the game, quick menu, resume. And as you can see, we now got a mega bezel applied, but that one's a little bit boring, so let's just change this over. We're going to go back down to shaders to do this. Load preset. The mega bezels just here, starting with 0, are often the heavier ones on your processor. So if you've got a lower end computer, by selecting digit 0, they're going to be very heavy. Whereas if we go into something like potato, by using that one, it's not so draining on my hardware. And there really is some very awesome shaders or mega bezel shaders here. So load preset. And we can also go into base CRT presets, as well as base CRT presets DRes. If we go into DRes, and just remember the ones starting with a 0, so it'll be MBZ or MBZ_0, are going to be more wearing on your hardware. So let's check out randomly one of these, 480p. And if we go back into the game, so really so much to explore within the shaders and in the mega bezels. And we've also got another folder containing some really cool shaders here. So if we go to shaders again, load preset, shader slang, and if I go back down to bezel, you're also going to find Cocoa just here. If I go inside of here and say go to presets 4.1, we got plenty just there to use. So if you're a Commodore fan, we can actually apply a Commodore shader. So for this, I'm actually going to apply monitor base. If I come back out, quit menu, and of course we got plenty more to use in that Cocoa folder. So shaders, load preset, and we're going to go back and use something else. Let's check out clean scan lines. And go back into the game. And finally, let's just go back down to shaders again. Load preset. And I'm going to check out one of these Commodore monitors. I'm a big Commodore fan. So we're going to select this one. So once that's applied, let's just save. So I'm going to save preset. And say I want to use this particular preset every time I launch a Mega Drive game, I'm going to just go to Save Global Preset. And if we just come out, back to configuration file, save current configuration again. Let's just check out this. So very cool stuff. So what I'm going to do is actually now restart. If I open up another Mega Drive game, I'm going to go for Shadow of the Beast, run. And there we go. Because I use that save setting, every time we launch a Mega Drive game, and again, if we just close content, and I select my Robocop vs Terminator game, and there we go. Let me just go through that again with you. So if you want to save this, so every time you boot up a game, say for example using the Genesis plus GX core, we need to save that. So every time we boot up Retroarch again, it's going to take us back into those settings. So again, I'm going to go down to shaders, and once you've selected your shader to use, such as Mega Bezels or the Cocoa, just make sure to save preset. And then save global preset. And we can actually add additional mega bezels too into Retroarch if you happens to find anything online, such as this one for example. All we're going to do is just download the mega bezel pack. So that's now been downloaded. So I'm going to just open that. If I just minimize the website, I'm going to just drag out the mega_bezel. Okay, so once that's been extracted, what we're going to do is go into the Retroarch directory. If we go inside the shaders, we're going to go into shaders_slang. And from here, we're just going to drop down to bezel. And here's Mega Bezel. And what I'm going to do then is take that folder I've just extracted and just highlight everything and just copy it into that folder. Okay, so for this, it's already saying that I've got most of these. So I can skip files, and this is going to add some extra packs. So like I say, just an example how to get you up and running with additional bezels and shaders. So if I go into shaders just here, I should find more folders here. So we've got plenty there to play around with, and look for community bezels, and that's how you do it. Okay, I'm now going to go on to showing you how to install systems such as PlayStation or Sega Saturn, those systems which require BIOS files. I'm also going to be showing you how to make your bin and queue games a lot smaller using a system known as .chd. So before I go into the BIOS, what I'm going to do is just take you over to a website, and we can download chdman.zip. And what CHD does is actually reduces the size of your games and pretty much takes away all those .bin and .q files, which gets really messy over time, and just pretty much puts them into one file. So I've just downloaded CHDman, and this is the contents inside. So for this, what I'm going to do is just extract those contents into a new folder, and I'm going to just call this folder CHDman. If I then just drag those contents inside, so they're now inside. Now in my PSX folder just here, I've got a game which is Alien Trilogy, which I always use for PlayStation 1 setup guides. And what I need to do is go into the CHDman folder, and there's two files here that we need to drag and drop into that game folder. So I'm going to drag and drop chdman.exe, and the one underneath it, which is Q, GDI, ISO to CHD BAT. If I then just drag both of these into that Alien Trilogy folder, what I'm going to do to start converting these to CHD is simply just double left click on the .bat file just here. And this is going to bring up a terminal or a console, and it's going to tell us how long it's got. So as we see, it's now at around 20% complete. And some games take longer than others. Alien Trilogy isn't particularly a big game, but I'm just doing this as an example so you can see how to do this. And I'll leave the link in my description so you can download CHDman yourself. Okay, and if we look back in my Alien Trilogy folder, we can now see alientrilogy.chd. So what I'm going to do is just literally delete the bins and the queue. We no longer need those. So if I left click on one of these files, press Control on my keyboard and press A, it's going to highlight everything. And if I press Control again and just left click on CHD, I'm going to delete all those bin and queue files, and we're just left with CHD file here. So what I'm going to do next then is actually just copy this and take it outside of the folder. I can now delete that Alien Trilogy folder because we got a single file. Of course, we're going to need to import this into Retroarch, and that's going to give us a PSX folder. So what we're going to do first, before going back into Retroarch, is just set up the BIOS. So if I go back into Retroarch and down to System, the System folder is mainly where your BIOS files are going to go. So like I said earlier on in this video, to establish which BIOS files you need, your best bet is to really do a Google search and look specifically for something like PlayStation, Retroarch, and the core I'm going to use for this and download is a core called Swan Station. So anyways, I've got my BIOS files just here, and like I say, your BIOS files go inside of your Retroarch system folder. So that's now in place, and I've also got that PSX folder with Alien Trilogy. So if I go into the ROMs folder I created earlier, I'm going to just drag in my PSX folder and then go to open up Retroarch. So if we just scroll down, retroarch.exe. Okay, so just like earlier on, in order to download cores, we're going to go to Online Updater, Core Downloader. And we're just going to scroll down until we come across Sony PlayStation. And here's Sony's PlayStation. So there are several cores to support PS1 games. I'm going to use Swan Station. I think it's one of the best on there. If I press my A button, core has now been installed, and we've also got the BIOS files in that system folder. So everything's fine. We also need to import the PS1 game into Retroarch. So again, we're going to go to import content, down to manual scan, content directory, C drive, and we're going to look for the desktop again. So we're going to scroll down to users, and the name of my folder for my computer is Jamie, and here's my desktop. And I'm then going to go down to Retroarch, and from here I'm going to go into that ROMs folder, and here we go. Here's my system folder, so I'm going to select PSX and scan this directory. And again, I'm going to press up on my D-pad, which is going to take us to the bottom. If I press A on start scan, scan complete. If I come back out and just go down, there's PSX, and here's Alien Trilogy. If I press A on this, I'm going to just set the core association for this and select my Swan Station core I've downloaded and installed. So every time I boot up Alien Trilogy, we're not going to get that suggested cores feature which Retroarch offers. If I run, okay, and as you can see, we've still got full screen applied, and of course PlayStation games, and in fact most games up until say the late 1990s were actually in 4:3 ratio. Some games putting them into full screen will look okay, others might look a bit stretched. So if I come out of here by pressing B, settings, video, and if I then go down to scaling, I'm going to go down to aspect ratio and either put core provided or go to 4:3. If I select core provided, this is going to automatically detect this is a PS1 game because we're using that PS1 core, and it's going to put it into 4:3 aspect ratio. And if you're an Alien fan, we got a new Alien film coming out soon, which I'm really looking forward to. So that's how to configure your BIOS. So obviously if I didn't have BIOS in place, the PlayStation 1 game wouldn't be working. And so other systems which require BIOS files, mainly CD systems, such as the Philips CDI, 3DO, Sega Mega CD, Sega Saturn, all of those CD-based systems or consoles requires BIOS files, and they all go into your system folder in your Retroarch directory. Okay, so we're next going to be looking at how to use cheats within Retroarch. So to do this, from your main menu, just go down to Online Updater by pressing A, and then we're going to go down to Update Cheats. If I press A on this to download it, just let this extract. And while that's extracting, what I'm going to do is just load up a game. So for this, I'm going to go down to my NES section, and I'm going to choose a Nintendo NES game. I'm going to just use Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, so in order to use cheats through Retroarch, what we're going to do is, whilst we're in game, we're just going to scroll down from the Retroarch quick menu and press A on cheats. And from here, I'm going to firstly just enable apply after toggle. If I press A to turn this on, I'm then going to go down to load to cheat file, append. And from here, we're going to see a list of different systems. I'm going to specifically look for a Nintendo Entertainment System, which is just here. If I go inside of this folder, I've got a whole list here of cheat files, all for Nintendo Entertainment System games. So obviously these are in alphabetical order, so I'm going to look for T, obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I've got several different cheats here. We've also got a Game Genie cheat, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to use the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles USA.CHT. If I press A on this, and if I then scroll down, we're going to find a long list of different cheats we can use in this particular game. So Infinite Energy All Turtles, I can enable this by pressing A and just going down to enabled and press A to turn this on. So we've got infinite missiles, and what this means is when we get to the second map in the Turtles game, when you're going around the world in your little Turtles van, this is going to give us infinite missiles, I assume. So I'm not going to bother with that one. And we've also got a random cheat here. Turtle floats the ceiling when not moving, so just for a bit of fun, enable this one. Infinite energy, again, enable. Fewer enemies, no, I'm going to leave that there. We also got moonwalking, enable that one. Piano-like music, I'm going to enable this one. And as you can see, this is going to be the same case for any game pretty much. There are particular systems which don't have cheats for them. But anyways, if we come out of here, and I'll just go down to apply changes. If I then go back into my Turtles game with those cheats enabled, so really bizarre, but I'm moving to my left, and yeah, it's a little bit odd, but as we can see, the turtle is flying to the ceiling, which obviously isn't the way it should be. We also got that really strange music playing because I enabled the piano sound. And I'm actually taking no damage right now. My energy meter isn't going down because I've enabled the infinite energy. And for a game like Turtles, it's such a hard game. I'm not sure why this was made for kids, but it was. You might need infinite energy when you get further in the game in order to finish it. But anyways, that's how you apply cheats. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, and finally I'm going to show you how to swap discs. So the method I'm using for this is going to apply to all systems that require a swap of discs at some point. So I'm using the traditional format, which is .adf Amiga games, and of course we got 3 discs here, which is pretty common for Amiga games to have a few discs. So if I just load up the first disc of Cannon Fodder 2, so this is the first prompt for swapping discs. So what we need to do is just go to the Retroarch quick menu, and from here you're going to find disk control, and we're going to go down to load new disk, and from here I'm going to choose disk 2. And as you can see, that's now accepted disk 2, and it's continuing to load the game. Okay, that's it for today's Retroarch setup guide then. So I tried doing as much information as possible in a video which was going to fit in under an hour, and I've managed to do that. So hopefully I've covered most points in there, from customizing your Retroarch themes, to adding cheats to your retro games, to looking at mega bezels and much more, which I've included. So I've also got an entire playlist for Retroarch specific setup guides ranging from the PlayStation 2 to the Commodore 64. Anyways, if you liked today's video, hit notification, subscribe, and like, and also check me out on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. But until next time, stay retro.